Oh yeah, here we go, practice acquisition. There are pitfalls throughout the entire process. If you want to buy a practice, this is how, folks.
Acquisition Unscripted, the truth when buying and selling a dental practice. And now your host, Michael Dencio.
All right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Dental Acquisition Unscripted. This is Mike Dencio, as you know, the host and founder of the program. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. As always, subscribe, like, follow us. My goal is to offer you guys great information, great people, great connections, and continue helping you guys along that ownership journey. As you know, this program is all about acquisitions and the process in which we walk people through from start to finish. But today, a little different. I'm mixing it up. I am bringing in one of our clients that we helped actually go through the process, and I wanted to hear from him. I wanted to hear from him and his experience and the challenges and maybe trials and turbulations, all the things, right? And so I'm lucky to have him on the show and him investing time. His name is Dr. Josh Raiffe, and he owns Shea Dental. And welcome to the program, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. You looking good. I feel like totally underdressed. You look fantastic, like a million.
Thank you, my man. I appreciate it.
I wouldn't expect anything less, man. Yeah. I always gotta like up my game when I'm in front of Josh. But hey, I'm just in Tacoma, Washington. You know, they call this Grit City. I look professional. You, my friend, have a practice in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I would expect nothing less. You look great, buddy. So yes, Josh bought a practice in Scottsdale, Arizona. We had the privilege of working with him. Buddy, give me your background, like where you're obviously a dentist, but just kind of like how you got into dentistry, your school, just little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So originally from Cleveland, Ohio, I moved out to Arizona 10 years ago. Go Ohio, go Bucks.
That's really why he's on the program, because he's an Ohio boy, and I love that.
There you go. And I moved out here about 10 years ago for all my schooling. And I went to Glendale for Midwestern Arizona from dental school. Great program, great clinical program. And then I worked in North Phoenix for about 18 months.
As an associate?
Almost
2 years. Almost
2 years.
Okay.
And from there, my next phase was buying this practice.
Oh, yeah. And your dad?
So my dad's a dentist, and again, from Cleveland, and he moved out here a bunch of years ago too. And, you know, I saw him own multiple practices at some point, but definitely I've been chairside since I was 13, pretty much.
I was going to say, that's why I bring it up. You're successful in your own right, but like someone that like grows up in the dental industry, it's a good industry. We all love it. I love it. You love it. But like you like literally grew up in the dental chair.
Grew up in it. Yeah.
Did you work in your dad's office?
All positions. What? You know, I was assistant when, you know, I was one summer I decided not to go to camp anymore, and my parents were like, you got to do something. And my dad was like, hey, I'll pay you. And I wanted a dirt bike at the time. So I'm like, oh, if I work one summer, I'll get a dirt bike.
I love this story.
There you go.
What did you do in the office that year?
The first year I was a dental assistant. And then I loved it, and I bought my dirt bike. And the next year I said, I want to get a dirt bike for my buddy so we can ride together. So the next summer I did the same thing. I worked again.
Patients were like literally like, you know, and here's you handing dad tools. Yeah.
Oh, and I was learning how to be a dentist. And as I grew older, I started to learn more about the business side of the dental practice. Yeah. And at some point he had multiple practices. And as I got older, I was going to him with meetings with his accountant, his attorneys, and everything like that. So I was chairside, and then, you know, off, you know,
you were born for ownership. You were born for ownership.
Yeah.
You literally were born for ownership. You were groomed for ownership. I guess that doesn't surprise me that you own and you're kicking some serious butt. So
thank you.
I guess to that point, like it's kind of a stupid question. Now, I didn't have that little background there. I guess I remember talking to you very early on, and you probably told me that, but like, why did you want to own? It's kind of a stupid question now, having that little background. So why own? And we can get into like later, we can get into like more specifics, but like in general, you're an associate, you're 18 months in. Why do you want to own? Why does that make sense? Why did it make sense to you?
You know, at the end of the day, owning gives you autonomy, and you get to grow your brand into how you want to grow it. And you can't do that as an associate.
No, you can't. It doesn't surprise me when you're talking to CPAs with your dad and professionals, you can kind of already see it. But like, to the average listener on the other side of this microphone, you know, they didn't have that background. So they're sitting there and they're working for someone else. And, you know, I hear autonomy a lot. I hear clinical autonomy is probably my number one reason why. Why is that, Josh? Like, help me understand. Like the clinical autonomy part.
You know, there's a lot of clinical autonomy, but there's also a lot of leadership autonomy that you can do as a practice ownership. And, you know, if you work for somebody and they like doing this material and this procedure and this is how you do it, you kind of have to do the same thing. There are some owners that are really cool and they'll let you explore, and that's great. But a lot of owners, unfortunately, are, here's how we'll do it. Here's the lab we use. You work for me.
But like, do owners literally like tell you how to do dentistry?
You know,
I mean, when I hear autonomy, I hear like, no, you can't do it that way. Like I as a non-clinician, and everybody listening to this show knows what you're talking about, but like, I always wondered, like, do they literally tell you can't do a root canal? They literally tell you, like,
you know, I was fortunate in my first position that I had a good boss. You know, he let me do kind of, you know, clinically what I wanted to do in a way, but there are some procedures that I wasn't allowed to do because he took them. There are some bigger procedures that some owners will take. And
I see,
you know, if you want to just grow how you should grow, there's just going to be a cap at it at some point, whether it's super low or super high, but there will always be a cap on it when you work for somebody.
And there's probably a continuum there. And some jobs, it's probably really low. It sounds like you had one of those high ones.
Yeah, I had a higher one, but
you just wanted more control, more autonomy, vision. You had a vision for what you wanted to do already.
Had a vision.
Did you, as an associate, did you like, how do I say this? Did you yearn for wanting to manage people and impart kind of your leadership, or was that like something that you weren't really like? Is that something that you wanted?
Absolutely. And we'll talk about this more later about how owning versus being associate is essentially the same thing because it affects you directly. But I definitely had that when I was an associate of wanting to lead and kind of grow people with me, not teach them and not tell them, but show them and have them grow alongside me, so everybody gets better and more efficient at their chosen duty.
Yeah, I find that a lot of docs, it's interesting. Some people want ownership, but they don't want that, and that confuses me. So I'm interviewing you because you did have a very successful transition. A lot of people have a hard transition, and I think that's a key element. You wanted that, which makes sense why you would want to own and also maybe make a little bit more money. I know at one point you were considering a startup before you bought, but to me, we do a lot of startups. We do a lot of buyer representations. I don't care which direction you go. Why did you end up going down the acquisition path?
Yeah. So when the story about my job was, you know, I was working there for about a year. And about a year in, I produced $1 million.
As just the dentist? Not
as an associate. Yeah, just a dentist. On my hands, I was doing just about $1 million.
Dude, that's crazy.
And I'm about a year and change in, and I start going, you know, hey, I want to know what my future is here. I don't need the whole thing. I just want to say, you know, what's my future here? And he was older. He was over 60, and I'm an early career guy. And I said, you know, hey, what's our options here?
Yeah.
And we could do it in a way where you can stick around for a while. We could junior partnership into full, whatever it is.
And he pretty much told me conversation. You started
something, right?
Yeah.
And he pretty much told me to pound sand, and 2 months later he fired me. And it was the best day of my life.
It was not, but now it is. Now it is.
It wasn't then, but now it was the best day of my life.
Yeah, I've been fired once. That's brutal. That's brutal. Yeah.
And he fired me over a text message.
Oh my God. Of course he did. Of course he did. What? That's actually crazy because we help some clients with some really big practices that have multiple associates in it. And I'm sitting back thinking to myself, like, we have an associate, like imagine me as the consultant and we're advising the owner, and the owner has an associate producing $1 million. And I'm imagining my client come to me and say, well, the associate wants just a piece, and started having the conversation. And I'm like, bro, like, you have a $2 million practice or whatever, and he's doing $1 million. So like, we gotta have that conversation. You got to lock that down. I couldn't imagine saying, yeah, tell him to go pound sand. Like, I couldn't imagine that because the practice is only going to do one thing. It's going to do one thing.
Yeah.
You might need two associates coming in to bridge that gap. Yep. And so the practice is just naturally going to go down, or the other owner is going to have to like work his butt off to make it up.
Whatever it is.
Anyways, so he tells you to piss off, and you're like, okay.
And then he fires me over text message, and I think, oh my God, what's going on? And
text message.
Now I look at, not looking back, was the best day of my life. And for a month, I just traveled. I did some art. I just explored, and I was thinking about, what am I going to do? Yeah. And in that month, I was thinking, okay, well, let me build a practice. And let me build a practice. And I actually designed my own 2,400 square foot office.
You have that just hanging for inspiration.
Yeah. Because
you designed that.
This is to scale.
Oh my God. And so folks, for folks that are not on YouTube right now watching and just listening, Josh just showed me a floor plan that he apparently chicken scratched himself, and it looked like a full-on CAD file is what it looked like. So okay.
No, everything's to scale, everything is blueprint, everything is good
wild.
To go.
That is wild. Okay, so you were all in it. You were all in on the startup.
I had meetings with some financial people. I met with some bank. I mean, I had commercial guys, everything. And, I even went to an architect, and, he's like, wow, not everybody does that.
No, we do that. We actually do that for our clients. We do next level.
Great. Yeah, it's great. It's a great service.
Maybe I'll have you start doing that.
And it was fun, but I just realized, I said, okay, it's going to take about a year. Mm-hmm. Before I see one patient, it's going to take about a year. And you know what? Let me see what else is out there. Mm-hmm. And so I knew of some practices for sale. I knew some brokers in the area. I knew some other dentists too. And I was thinking, okay, well, let me look into this then. And I fortunately found a really good opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And, on May 1,
how did you find that? Wait. How did you find that? Because one of the biggest frustrations of my clients is they can't find a practice. And so they end up doing a startup. So how did you find the practice?
Yeah. So I knew of the guy actually through a study club I was at, a pretty large study club in Phoenix, Scottsdale.
Okay.
And probably about 40, 50 people that go every meeting. So I knew him through there, but
the broker or the doctor?
The seller. And then I saw the practice for sale on a broker's website, and there it is. There it was. Yeah.
So I'm actually fascinated by this, Josh, because I tell everybody that's looking for a practice, like, go to the websites. But folks, if you're looking at the sites, you're looking at the same listings everybody else is looking at. Some of them are total crap. Mm-hmm. Some of them might, like, a very small part, good. But you went to a study club. So for folks that don't know Dr. Josh, he is a go-getter, and he's at a study club, and he's having conversations. Folks, I'm telling you, that's how you find the good ones. That's how you find the good ones. But anyways, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
And no, and I absolutely agree with you. And from there, I reached out on May 1, and the transition closed on July 1. So 2 months exactly.
That's fast. That's crazy fast.
Yeah.
When did I come into that scene?
You're probably a week into it. About a week after I've already met the broker. I met the selling doctor in his office. And about a week later is when I reached out to you and I said, hey, let's get this done. I want this done right. And
I find that fascinating a little bit because what about that whole process, I guess, made you feel like you might have needed a buyer rep? And I'm not trying to throw a softball up to like promote me. I'm literally trying to understand, like, in your mind, you felt like there was a deficiency somewhere. It's like vitamins. It's like you eat vitamins and you're trying to fill a deficiency in your diet. That's how it goes. So at some point you felt like maybe there was a deficiency somewhere. Yeah. Otherwise you wouldn't have invested in me. So what was it?
You know, when you realize that the people in the deal are there for one of two reasons: to make the deal go through so they can get paid and represent the seller, you realize that you're alone.
Yeah.
And you have your attorney, or you should have your attorney. You have your accountant.
Yeah.
But everybody else is not on your team. And not that they're against you, but they're there to do their job.
They're pro deal. They're pro deal no matter what.
Yeah. And
I remember something that you said to me. You said, Mike, if this isn't the deal, I'm out. You're like, just tell me. You were like, just tell me, is this a good deal? Because if not, and if they don't appreciate this, your number or whatever, I forget the details, but I remember you specifically saying, I'm not desperate, but is this a good one or not? And you already had a team, so there must have been a deficiency somewhere, and you felt that.
Yeah. And you just want someone over your shoulder protecting you and representing your best interest.
Right.
And look, whatever the fee was compared to what an average dentist will do in their career is they will buy a practice maybe, and that'll be the largest deal that they ever do. And then 20, 30 years later, they'll sell it and that'll be it. Right.
And that's their second deal.
And that's their second deal.
Yes.
And you are dealing with people that they do this every day. This is all they do. They are trained professionals. They know when to be your friend and they know when to be your enemy. And they know when to make it tough and they know when to make it easy. They know how to play the deal. You do not. And what I think is really important is for dentists to realize that the second they want to become a practice owner, they become an entrepreneur. And we need to talk about this in the community is you are not just a dentist at this point. You are a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You have to think like one, because the only person that's going to get affected is you and your career. It's true.
It's true. It's true. I find that the practice brokers are really good at making you, the buyers, feel like, you don't really need anybody else. I know everything. And they do. They do. I've sold practices. They do. They know everything. But everything that they give you, everything that they say, every document, every piece of advice is to help them and the seller. And there's just little things that just need to be tweaked. That's interesting. I've got a question, and it's really like this idea of buyer rep, because if I remember right, you had a banker in play when we talked, and then you had a CPA also in play at the exact same time. Did you get the prospectus first and then you sent it to them and you're looking at it, and about that time you're like, you felt like maybe something was maybe missing? Because I think that's the common track of most buyers is they talk to a banker. The banker says, "Oh, here, I'll give you the money." And then the CPA is like, "Well, yeah, here's the cash flow. This looks good." There's sometimes I feel like black and white is easy to see, but then it's the gray stuff. And like, why a buyer rep in your opinion?
Yeah. Honestly, at the end of the day, the buyer rep is there to protect you. Everyone else is essentially there to make the sale go through, simply for the benefit of themselves. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just a part of a sale, of a transition.
Yeah.
And you want me to go into the buying and selling, how if you do it once, your choice. So, if you as a entrepreneur, and if you become a practice owner, you are an entrepreneur. We have to establish that in our business right now. And I think there's a lot of people not going on about that. If you go and buy a practice, you become an entrepreneur overnight. You have to start thinking like that. And as an entrepreneur, you maybe buy a business and sell a business once and you're doing really good. And maybe you do it twice in your career and you're doing awesome.
Yeah.
But there are people that buy and sell businesses every day for their entire career. So when you, as a buyer coming in, as the seller, they know when to be, as the seller's agent, they know when to be your friend, and they know when not to be your friend. Or they know this.
Or when to start pressing and selling. Because they're selling. That's what they're doing.
They're selling. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's just they have their job.
Yeah.
And the problem is
to get max value.
Their job is to get maximum value, and your job is not to overpay. And going into that middle ground is where the transition gets sometimes really fun and sometimes really dicey. Yeah, and I know we had some moments when it was getting a little dicey. Yeah. And if you did not have a buyer representative who does this like you do, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
You fall in love as a dentist. So there's an entrepreneur side of you and there's still a dentist side of you, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say you want to have your practice, you've been dreaming about this forever, and you have this great practice that you think, oh my God, I can't wait to go in there. Yes. There's 4, 5, 6 beautiful ops. The reception's beautiful. I can't wait to edit. I can't wait to upgrade. You start creating these fallacies in your head, which is fine.
Yeah,
that's a good doctor.
Yeah, it's good.
But you want to make the deal go through. Yeah. And when that happens, you get emotion involved, and that can really be bad. That can really hurt you. Yeah.
Kind of like shopping for a house, right? Like you see a house and you see all the potential in it, right? And then you're like, let's go. Especially in your area. you know? Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's still, the business is worth something today. Yes. And then the business could be worth more or less, but you don't think that way. The business is going to be worth if I put all this work into it, if I increase new patients, if I do more dentistry, if I do that procedure he or she owner doesn't do today, like you're getting excited about that, right?
Yeah.
And so you might be willing to overpay, quote unquote, because of that potential. Mm-hmm. But the truth is the asset that you're buying today is worth this today, not what you could do with it. And I think that's what a lot of brokers tap into, is that emotional part of it for you, for the buyer. Yeah. And the bank, they're not going to tell you the value. They're just giving you the money. Their job is not to tell you, this is worth it or not. They can't do that. And then the CPA, they'll give you some ideas for sure. But I think the clinical part, the clinical marketing, even some of the negotiations of the intricacies, the CPAs don't really touch. So there's some of these things that are not caught. And I'm glad you're saying that. Anything else that caught you for surprise on your transition that you're like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that? Anything that pops out in your mind?
I had a banker when I came into the transition, and I had a different banker when I came out of the transition. And that was a lot of help, from you. And, they're all good guys. They want to see you succeed. And, at the end of the day, they get paid when the loan gets issued. And so they want to get this thing going. But I had great help from you to get connections and more connections in the banking industry. And, alone, it saved on the interest rate, $200,000 just based on a connection.
What about the purchase and sale? Do you remember going through some of the nuances with the purchase and sale? Some of that legal work? Anything surprising there?
Look, there's technicalities on the legal side of things. I had a great attorney who's been doing this for probably 30 years at this point, and that was crucial. You absolutely need an attorney. And then you break it down more into the goodwill, and how can you be favorable on that? Obviously, they're going to want one thing, you're going to want the other thing, and again, meeting in the middle, that's where the deal comes through, and just getting it done.
Did you find that like a lot of my buyers and clients kind of have this idea of like win lose or lose win kind of mentality? I guess I just find that like there has to be a win-win, and I know with your particular deal, there were some moments where some heated moments where one side might have felt like they were losing and the other side might have felt like they were winning. But I think a lot of buyers need to hear that, hey, look, you're not going to win every deal point, but trying to find that middle ground, I think, is what you were trying to say there is the key. There's a lot of that going on. Question, post-close, you're now a new owner. All right. And you got the keys, you're excited. It's your baby. And in your situation, the seller stayed on. So it's even more kind of like a complicated, less clean type of deal. So you had a lot more things going on where the average doc gets in and it's their baby and it's their decisions and there's no other influences. So even more so with you, like, how did that first month, 2 months, 3 months, how was that? Any surprises there, challenges that you can recall?
Yeah, that's a great topic you bring up. When you have an idea of something in anything in life, but if you have an idea of something and the opportunity that's presented to you is just a little different, how well can you adapt? My entire life, I thought I was going to buy an office, I was going to be the guy, and then I'd figure it out. An opportunity that I didn't want to pass up came, but the guy wants to stay on.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, logically, that's going to ruin my cash flow. But goodwill wise, he's going to stick around for a little bit. And I'll tell you now, because it's been some time, it's working out quite well now. But in the beginning, remember, you have to be in there producing the dentistry because you make the most money when you produce the dentistry yourself. If you have 1, 2, 3 associates, doesn't matter. You don't make as much. And in the beginning, when you only have X amount of production and he's doing most of the production, you don't really have that much left over. Yeah. But as your side gets busier and his side kind of stabilizes, you start making good cash flow. So in the beginning, the first few months, I didn't really pull money out. And that's because I didn't really want to. One, because I want to reinvest in my business because it's the best returns you'll ever have. But two, it's just a little different. Yeah. And looking back now, I'm happy how it turned out. I am actually really happy that I have an associate part-time. My production of the practice is bigger now because I have that.
Two people, more production. Yeah.
2 people, more production, right? And, in the beginning it was a little tough because I want my bank account to look bigger, but I know I have to pay out a highly paid employee, which is an associate.
Yeah.
But as my schedule builds up, everything works out.
And that's the rub. What about, so forget financials. You're very, one thing about you that I appreciate is you're very sensitive and you own your numbers. I would say most dentists don't in general. It's not something that they love to do. Forget financials for a second. Let's talk leadership and transitional and HR and culture. And like, to me, that one of the biggest things that I hear from buyers is, oh, wow, like managing team is by far the hardest thing about the transition. You had a pretty solid transition when it came to your team, but like still, even with a great team that had a great spirit about them and a willingness to adapt and learn, they were great. That's not atypical. You're always going to get someone that's kind of the grouchy person, and like there's always or an over dramatic hygienist that just can't whatever, right? So you lucked out, but even still with that luck, anything that you'd like to impart to folks that are considering going in now that you're about a year in?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at your breakdown of overhead, your largest expense is always going to be your staff. When I look at my overhead, I look at my largest overhead as my team. Okay? When I look at my numbers and I look at, oh my God, how much am I spending on my team? You can look at it as, wow, this is an expense, or you can look at this as, this number actually produces me the most money.
It's an asset.
So it's an asset. And you have to look at it like that. I made a rule when I transitioned. I let everyone know, you are not my staff. You are my team.
Mm-hmm.
We are on the
I
same.
hate the word staff. It's an infection.
Yeah,
it's an infection.
Yeah. Or people call their front desk girl front desk. Don't call them a piece of furniture. Okay. Front office manager, whatever you want to call it, but don't call them a front desk. Okay. It's how you speak that the energy in your office carries. As you, the owner doctor, you are the leader of your practice. How you speak, how you think carries into the entirety of your office and into your clients.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I've had a really fun time with it. I love leading people. You know, who as you are, you cannot hide from your team. Okay. If you value health and wellness, fitness, treating people well, treating people with respect, being an honorable guy, they see that you can't run from that. And at the very opposite side of it, if you're the opposite of that,
yeah,
they see that too. And the energy carries. So I've been very fortunate that, I transitioned. I had 7 or 8 team members. One I removed because it was not the right fit, and I saw it from a mile away.
Whoa, wait, that's really good. We got to talk about that. We don't need to get in specifics or anything like that, but at the same time, I want to touch on that because I will say, and we were with you post transaction as well.
Yes.
Paula and the team, and I will say that like most transitions, they're reading books, listening to podcasts, doing all the things, right? And there's 100 podcasts out there on topics like this. And everybody, banker, CPA, you name it alike, says, do not change a thing when you buy a practice. Stabilize the business. Don't. And I think that is actually really good advice, because if you go in like a hammer, you could really mess some things up. I've had mass exodus literally weeks in. But I think it's good to hear from you a year in that you did make some changes pretty quickly and you survived it.
Yeah.
Because be honest, when you closed, were you thinking you're going to drop someone pretty quickly? Probably not. You probably didn't think.
No.
And because you've heard not to do that.
Yeah, I hear all the advice. Don't change too many things. Walk slow. Look, I don't know. Have faith in yourself. If you truly believe, and this is beyond just owning a practice or being a dentist, this is for anyone's personality. When you wake up every day and you look in the mirror, what do you tell yourself? And if you believe in it and it's positive, if someone's going to leave, they're going to leave. That's not on you, though.
Yeah.
If you're creating an environment that people want to be in, that's not your fault. Don't take it to heart.
Yeah.
But so going back to I immediately came in and I saw someone from the beginning of, she was always late, just wasn't the right fit. And you could tell, there's some animosity between everyone, but no one wants to tell you. As a new owner, no one's going to tell you the drama until you figure it out. That's what I noticed.
There's a tip. I like that one. I like that one.
Because they don't know you.
So what you're saying is you go in and everybody's just kind of like feeling it out, right?
Yeah. But then I started noticing that there was one particular employee that just wasn't the right fit. Why is she here? And I gave it a fair shot.
Yeah.
You talk with them, you figure out who they are. Yeah. You give them an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. You don't make rash decisions. You give opportunities for growth. Yeah. And if you give opportunities for growth and it's not taken, you have to take care of yourself and say, look, you're no longer part of the team. I can't do this anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then another person left just because she got a different job offer closer to home. And, that happens too. So I transitioned with 8. I was down to 6. And now I have 14 people on my payroll.
Oh, my Lord.
1 year in.
Jeez. Yeah. So let me ask you that though. Like, you made the decision to let someone go. How quickly in?
I knew within 2 months, and I released her 4 months in.
Do you wish you did it sooner or no?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's always the case, but still, that's pretty quick. Good for you for making the decision inside 2 months. A lot of people hold on to that for way too long. Yeah. Was it a front office person?
Yeah.
Or back? Yeah. Okay.
It was insurance administrative stuff. So
okay. Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Just again, managing people. I think it's great to hear that you made some decisions. You identified kind of like a culture thing, right? So you identified a culture issue, and you made a decision fairly quickly, and worked through all the HR funness of HR. So that, any other things to kind of highlight, as I'm looking at my notes here for the program, any other things from inside the first year challenges or things that you thought, well, maybe I learned, learn from failure in certain ways? Is anything that you think you failed in that you could have did better?
Fail.
Well, those are the best lessons.
Those are the best lessons. I don't want to talk about like clinical failures, because every dentist will have that. I think business owner failures is what you're talking about.
Well, really anything.
Listen to your gut is what I would say. I was going to build a website with a firm that was not dental specific. And I'm not saying you have to go dental specific for everything. By all means, you should definitely play the field and see what's out there. And you can bring players into the dental field if they're really talented.
Yeah.
And I was with a website builder that I knew, and I just wasn't getting a good feeling from it. I wasn't going to be a top priority. It was going to be too expensive. And I wasted 4 to 6 weeks to get that going. And I went to a whole other company for my website, and I'm very happy with them now. A great marketing firm, and you know them well. And I think if I were to think about no catastrophic failures, thankfully, but if I were to go back, I would just say, if you have a gut feeling, don't wait.
Don't wait. Yeah.
I
love that. I think that's great. I mean, that's why you got into ownership, right? We talked about that already. And I would love
to talk about really quickly on why owning is essentially the same thing as being associated.
Yeah, we got to circle back to it. We got to circle
and it'll take just a few minutes, but
no, take 100 minutes.
When you look at the pie, right? The practice. You look at all the pie. Who's the one producing? Who's the one baking most of the pie? It's the dentist, and somewhat of the hygienist, right? 25% of the practice revenue on average will be hygienist, 75% will be the dentist, right? So on average, who's baking the pie? It's mostly you and maybe 1 or 2 hygienists. When you look at who gets to eat most of the pie, everyone knows as an associate, you get a third, give or take, of what you produce. Great.
Of your pie.
But when it comes to baking the pie, who's the one putting the flour and the sugar and measuring the milk and putting in the oven? You, the dentist, associate or not. That's who's baking the pie. But what if the what if the oven's not hot enough? What if the flour is not good enough? What if the milk's spoiled?
Something's off.
It affects you. It affects the associate. It affects your pie. And you're the one eating your pie. And so when you're an associate somewhere, and the front office is not efficient at getting new patient calls, or maybe they don't have the best personality over the phone, or maybe the greet-in process or the paperwork isn't good enough, or maybe the marketing isn't good enough, or maybe there's no marketing at all. And what about the patient experience? What about the follow-up? The only thing you can control as an associate is, hi, Mrs. Jones, we'll do a crown today, and how good can you do a crown, and how efficient are you? And clinically, that's your pie, no matter who you are, owner, associate, doesn't matter.
Totally.
But all the rest of the pie, which is very important, and I love that stuff, from the moment the patient hears about your practice, from the moment they leave your practice, hopefully on good conditions, all of that pie, someone's baking it. And you, the dentist, whether you're the owner or not, is the one producing most of the pie. But everything else, all the other conditions, it can either be in your control or out of your control. But whether or not they're in or out of your control has a direct correlation of what pie you're producing and how much you get to take home to eat. So you might as well do a little bit of the extra work and figure out, is your oven hot enough? Is your milk good quality? Is your flour ripe? Are your eggs good? You might as well figure that out. And it's not that hard. If you're already doing the clinical dentistry, you're 90% there.
And what's interesting about that, the baking analogy you're making is that the dentist, if they're good leaders, and they care about the whole process, and they own a lot of that process.
Yep.
And let's say you're an associate, and I've had clients that basically run a practice for someone else.
Yep.
They are literally responsible for baking and making the whole pie, but they're only eating 30, to your point, 30% of their 70%, right?
Yeah.
And that's a shame. That's a shame.
It's a shame. It's a shame. You're doing all the work.
But if I will say, if you're an associate and you're not interested in the whole process of making the pie, and you're only interested in your piece,
which is fine,
dude, don't even get into ownership. That's a fact.
Find a baker that's really good at baking the pie. Don't find somebody else that isn't really paying attention to the oven. Yeah. Because then it hurts you. If you find, and this is the golden handcuffs, right? If you find an associateship that the guy or girl is on their dime, they are crushing it, they take care of the marketing, they take care of the patient experience, everything else, right? You find a great owner and you just want to work 2, 3, maybe 4 days. Yeah. And you're happy with how the owner is doing everything else, how he's running his bakery. Yeah. Sure. Go bake pies all day long. You'll be very happy with the results.
Yeah.
But if you are and I know I would say more often than not, there's too many cooks that are baking somebody else's pie that the owner of the bakery isn't even there.
It's true. It's true. That's what I'm saying.
Seriously. If you find the golden handcuffs, let me know.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I guess where I was going with that is I meet a lot of docs that do really well financially as an associate. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of them are making 300, 400,000. And I wonder, now they're working their butt off. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. You have to be, right?
Yeah.
And they can negotiate their percentage to maybe 35%, or maybe they have a scale or whatever.
It's pennies overall, but yeah.
But still though, Doc, like some of those people are not good communicators. Some of those people have zero vision. Some of those people, they don't have leadership. So be careful about being too loud about ownership, because I'm going to tell you, of all of our clients, some of them shouldn't, and they probably won't make 400 grand as their own owner. And it's really interesting. I will say that, like, folks, you're listening to Josh, and he obviously was born for ownership. That's not most people. My point to that is know yourself. Some people don't even want to work that hard. Some people are totally fine working 2 days. And so, like, just know yourself, because Josh, you are actually making it sound super easy to own. Can you at least admit that it's kind of hard?
Let me explain this. I am a type of guy, and you're absolutely right. And I tell to everyone I meet, I truthfully wish the best for everyone I meet. I want them to succeed in whatever success means to them, right? Whether it's purely financial, which it's much more than that. Mm-hmm. It's a combination of happiness. I want them to succeed in whatever they want to succeed in. And I truthfully believe that us as humans are always evolving and always trying to grow. That's what we are here for this earth. It doesn't mean growing your business. It doesn't mean growing your professional skills, but it could just mean growing as a whole. One thing I'm going through right now, and I'm very open and vocal about this, is healing my past traumas from my childhood. And I had a great childhood. I'm very blessed and very lucky, but I still have traumas. We all do. Yep. I'm going through all of those hurts right now. Mm-hmm. I'm working through those right now. And what has happened is, because as I'm going through my issues, because I don't want to stop, what else is happening in all other avenues of my life? It's improving.
Yes.
Business, personal, everything, you name it. Yeah. So you're right. If you have someone who is a dentist, they're an associate, they're just happy doing what they're doing, but they don't want to personally grow, absolutely. Don't own. Because owning is not necessarily just about how well you can treat the patients, lead your staff. Mm-hmm. It's about how well do you know yourself. And this is with any business. It's with any industry. How well can you know yourself? How deep can you dive into yourself and figure out where your limitations are? And if you're down for that, go own. But if you're scared or don't want to do that, maybe don't. Yeah, baby steps.
Exactly.
So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I just find that a lot of clients don't own the bakery. Mm-hmm. They don't want to know or own or work with your coordinator up front, or they don't want to dig into the systems and the spreadsheets. And They don't want any of that. They just want to do dentistry. Yeah. And to those folks, I have to ask, like, why ownership, right? But great episode, man. I really appreciate your time, your energy, your insight. Also, what's this? Tell me.
Please, by all means. I released a children's illustration book about how to brush your teeth in a fun and effective way for kids 0 to 10, and all proceeds go to charity Prevent Child Abuse America. So I just want to plug that in there.
Okay, let's talk about this. We'll put the information down below. Yeah. So
it is on Amazon. It is on Amazon, hardcovers and soft covers. It's been a great process. Yeah.
Walk us through this. So could doctors, dentists buy that and give it or sell it? What are you doing?
Absolutely. Whatever they want to do. If they do it, and we'll link my contact information, my email and my cell phone. If you want to host this in your office, that by all means, that's great. 100% of proceeds go to Prevent Child Abuse America. There's a large epidemic of child abuse, from childhood neglect to child sexual abuse, that I'm very vocal about. And you can definitely host this in your office. Patients love it.
So it says Josh, for folks that can't see, Josh and Gigi's Toothbrush Adventure. That's super cute. Did you create this? What is this?
I wrote the book a year ago. It took almost a year to make this. I wrote the book myself. I had it professionally edited by a New York Times bestselling author. I then had it professionally illustrated by a woman out of Ecuador. It was she did a wonderful job. Seriously, it was not cheap, but it was she absolutely crushed it. She did a great job. It's great. Really high quality. And what's amazing is, and when you put what's out there into the universe, positive things, it comes back to you, whether you want to call it karma or cosmic energy, whatever you want to call it. I was using a printing shop that my cost was $10 a book. And I was talking to a patient of mine, and he says, my best friend from childhood owns a printing shop. I'm going to get you over to him. He's going to make these books for you at cost. So I got the per book cost down by half of what I was paying, which is great, because that just means more money going to charity.
It's a great cause. So 100% of the proceeds 100%. Goes towards what specifically?
Right now, it's going to go to Prevent Child Abuse America, one of the largest child abuse charities in the country.
Badass, guys. That if anything, let's market that. The links will be below.
Thank you.
Doc, thanks so much for your time, man, and investing back into the community. Like you said,
absolutely,
what you put out comes 100% back. So I appreciate your energy and your passion for what you do. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
And thank you so much. And anyone can reach out to me at any time. And I believe dentistry is one of the best professions in the world. And so let's keep it going. Let's make this profession even greater. So thanks, Mike.
All right, guys. Well, another great episode, Dental Acquisition Unscripted. Again, Mike Dincio, owner of Next Level Consultants. And let's make it a wrap. Thanks, Josh. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.
Tune in next time for another truth-filled episode of Acquisition Uncensored. We want to hear from you. Interact with your host, Michael Dincio. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Comment and subscribe.